Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast, Field Goals and Forecast, from inside the radio station at 88.3 The Buzz FM, St. Bonaventure, New York. I am Ryan Adio, once again joined by my great co-host, Mr. James Derrick. Week 14. Can you really believe it's week 14 already?
It's here, and football is damn near over.
It is
at this
breezed
point.
by.
It's making me a little sad.
Yeah.
You know? It makes me... I'm taking things for granted, I think. I need to invest more of my time into football while it's here, because once spring rolls around and all that kind of... I mean, even like January, there's not... I can't say January, but late January into February, when you have the Pro Bowl and all that stuff, there's a lot of time that football is technically in season, but there's no football. You know
it's like the free agency and stuff like that. Yeah. But, I feel like it's been a very good season of football so far.
I agree. There's been a lot to talk about. Yeah. The Bills have been great. I mean, if you want to jump into it, we can jump into it now.
But let's start with some news first.
Okay, yeah.
Let's run with some news. Then we'll get to the Bills. We always cover the Bills. Don't worry. We'll get there. But firstly, here's the big one. I think we always start with some sort of coach news. I feel like. This is the time of the season where the coaches get fired, like things change. But firstly, Mike McCarthy is trending upward to return to the Cowboys.
God, just help the Cowboys. Actually, don't help the Cowboys. Their fans can be annoying, but what? I just don't understand.
I couldn't tell you, actually. I could not tell you why that's happening. He was 6-10 in 2020, which was his worst year, arguably. Besides this year. But 12-5 in 21, 12-5 in 22, and now, I think they're a 4-win team.
Yeah, they are currently, they're 5-8.
5-8. That's bad. And I don't think the problem is his record. I think his problem is his postseason prowess.
Yeah.
Like they get to the postseason and they just lose. They just lose every time in the first round.
Yeah, and I think if you're a Cowboys fan, maybe you didn't realize it when it happened, but Dak getting hurt was a bad thing for your team because now it's not Mike McCarthy's fault anymore. They're 5-8.
Right. I didn't even think about that.
So I would feel hopeless at this point as a Cowboys fan. I don't feel very great about that team. They managed to run the ball this week.
They did actually. We'll definitely get into that game later, but that was a good one between two teams with high expectations and low
production
outcome. Low. Yeah, I like production, but let's continue on. QB news: Derek Carr is likely out for the season with a fractured wrist. He tried to hurdle someone and just landed wrist first in a very boring game where he really didn't have to do that. Final score of that game was 14-11. Saints Giants. I wouldn't even be surprised if majority of the people listening to this did not watch that game. But he's now out for the season. The Saints are continually just hopeless and hopeless and hopeless. In a very weak division, by the way, that all four members are still in playoff contention.
Really?
Yeah. Panthers haven't been eliminated just yet. They do have to win a lot of games, but
the Panthers are still hanging on.
They are. But the Saints, I think they're out. They might even finish at the bottom of the division, but they're winning. They have an interim head coach, and he's 3-0? 3-1. Sorry. They lost to the Rams last week.
Well, as a Giants fan, I see they're now sitting at 2-11.
Yeah.
I'm not even that mad.
Yeah.
I mean, they have their pick this year. So, honestly, I was talking to my friend who's a Cowboys fan. He also agreed that he was happy with the loss on Monday night.
And that's just kind of what happens. When you get into that bottom half of the year where you're losing, like just lose out.
Yeah, lose out.
And I know it's a really poor thing to say, but I think the draft pick is worth it when it comes to, like last year. Tommy DeVito comes in for the Giants, wins them a few games, loses them decently, like a better draft pick, and they're stuck with Daniel Jones. Or they were stuck with Daniel Jones, but they don't have their QB of the future.
No, they don't. But you think about a team like, for example, the Cowboys. They haven't been able to run the ball most of the year. Obviously, that changes in this past game. But they're continuing to lose. They're sitting at 5-8, and I know we're going to have a lot to talk about with the draft. However, you talk about a stud like Genty coming into the draft, and
it's like a no-brainer.
Running backs can fall in the first round. Definitely, they could. I mean, there are some people saying that he might not even be in the first round. I mean, I find that ridiculous, but
someone will pick him up.
Someone will pick him up, and it should be the Cowboys at this point.
It should be the Cowboys.
Think about how much of a talent he is, and he would really quell any problems they have on the offensive side of the ball. But that's also besides the point.
Right.
If you're bad, just lose out.
I think that's the moral of the story. At this point in the season, you could kind of start to tank. I would understand. I would get it. But a team that wants to do the actual opposite of that, the Panthers, their second round pick, right? Yeah. Second round pick, Jonathan Brooks out of Texas, right? He was behind. So. He was behind Bijan Robinson. Mm-hmm. Jonathan Brooks tore his ACL again. He tore his ACL again. He just came back. He played for 2 weeks and he retore his ACL, and now they're going to look to try to play him again in 2025.
That sucks.
It's really upsetting. Really, just a terrible story, honestly.
Yeah, a terrible start to your career. I mean, he's one of numerous running backs that have came in and have barely had a chance to play. A couple that come to mind is like J.K. Dobbins, right. Tearing his Achilles.
Yeah.
And I think he had an ACL.
He did have an
as
ACL.
Well. So, Brooks, obviously, though, did he re-injure the same?
The exact same ACL, yeah.
Man.
Which, that's so, like, you're rehabbing for months and months and months. Yeah. You're getting all these surgeries. You're going to PT. You're doing all this stuff. I mean, we know. We have a friend who tore his ACL. But, like, can you imagine if you're good for, like, a week and then it happens again?
I think we need a wellness check on Jonathan Brooks. Unironically, not football related. Just make sure he's doing okay, because that kind of thing really takes a toll on you.
Kills your mental health. But another player who is out for the season here, 3 in 1 week. I'm sorry if I pronounced his first name wrong, but DeMarvion?
I wouldn't know.
I completely don't know how to say his first name, but I have heard his last name a million times. Overshown. Cowboys stand out like outside linebacker, D end. He's likely out, but he's out with a season-ending knee injury, which they were saying could sideline him through the 2025 season as well.
All the way through.
Through the 2025 season. And I've watched a little bit of him. Sorry, I can't say your name. I don't know. I have watched you over and over, I promise. He's very good on the Cowboys. He was just starting to break out, and this is his second season-ending injury. It's going to put him through maybe 2025. That's so hard to see. It really is.
Thinking about the fact this season isn't even over, and immediately thinking I might not even play all of next year, that has got to be a terrible feeling for him and for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And now it's like, they have to plug up that spot if he could be out for all of next year.
Yeah.
So a lot of work to do for the Cowboys in this upcoming offseason.
Complete knee reconstruction for him.
Oh.
So that's just,
man,
not good. I don't even have to say that. It's not good. But let's continue on. This one comes close to home. Raheem Morris is going to stick it out with Kirk Cousins at the helm. He's going to continue playing him at QB. And next week, play the Raiders on Monday Night Football. And our former QB, Desmond Ridder, will start for the Las Vegas Raiders. It'll be a revenge game.
There you go.
But Cousins, he's been 0 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 4 fumbles through 4 weeks. It's been a very bad stretch of the season for him and the Falcons. They're not even at the top of their division anymore. Yeah, I could see Desmond Ridder coming in and winning this one, but just because it's the Falcons. Like, I honestly could.
No, there's a small chance, but with a veteran player like Kirk Cousins, the mistakes don't just continue to pile up. I think there comes a point where he starts to play a lot better. I'm not sure when you're going to get that. Against the Raiders would definitely be a great time to do that. It's a great time to just spark that offense, get going again. I don't think Kirk Cousins is going to keep playing this poorly. I'm sure you don't want to believe that he would continue playing this poorly.
Like, if he does, when do you say, okay, you're going to sit this one out for the rest of the season? Like 6 and 8?
Possibly. It has to be no chance. Maybe once you get down to your final straw, you need to win out and you need everyone else to lose. You could just say screw it and start Penix, because if Kirk Cousins does keep playing poorly, you're 6 and 8, 6 and 9,
7 and 10 probably.
Yeah, I don't know.
Again for the 5th straight season. It's been a rough going for Falcons fans. It was a tough game to watch against the Vikings. They just poured it on. I don't even want to talk about it in the game recap, so I'm bringing it up now. They just poured it on. Kirk's former team, I guess, just didn't hold back. But I didn't expect anything less. I took the Vikings to win, and you know what? It happened.
And I told everyone to start Sam Darnold in fantasy, so,
Yeah, the defense is just abysmal, too. But anyway, final bit of news here. The Browns, the Jaguars, and the Tennessee Titans have been eliminated from playoff contention, as if we didn't already know that. Yeah. Jaguars won, and they were eliminated, which...
Well, the Jaguars and Titans...
I think they were just out anyway.
That Jaguars-Titans game is up there for worst game of the year.
Yeah. Next to... Actually, I don't think it's next to anything. I think it might be the worst game of the year. I guess it was close the whole time.
I guess you have that.
If you like defense
and
or really bad offense, I'm trying to look now and see. Like, you could argue Titans-Lions would be worse, but 52-14, I mean, like...
At least you saw a lot of offense.
Yeah, right. Commanders, Panthers, 40-7.
I don't know. I think just when you consider the quality of teams, you're not watching... It's not even like it's good defense most of the time. Yeah. It can usually just be a lack of execution on offense, and that's
if you like incomplete passes and QBs that don't know what they're doing, this would have been a good game for you to watch.
Yeah.
But let's move on to the good game recaps here, and we're going to start with the Bills and the Rams. The first, I should say 44-42. The Rams take this one from the Bills. Rams were at home for this one. And it was the first game in NFL history where both teams scored 40-plus points and did not turn the ball over. Josh Allen was really doing all he could, and he couldn't get the win here. What if you're Josh, and I know he put everything on himself, but I guess how do you think he's feeling right now?
I mean, he hates to lose. You already know that. He's extremely competitive. That's not like I know him personally, but just watching him over the years, you tend to see what kind of responses he has to those kind of questions. He hates losing, but he's already looking forward to next week. We have a big game.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you get rid of a blocked punt, I think this game goes a different direction. When you have two teams that literally won't stop scoring like they were in that game, that's just going to be the difference. I mean... you got to execute on special teams. We have one of the worst special teams, I feel like, in the league when it comes to winning those plays. But that's exactly what decided this game. However, considering we have the division locked up, you want the number 1 seed. It's still within reach.
It's within reach, but...
Kinda.
Not when you look at the Chiefs' schedule.
No, it's not likely whatsoever. But it's still technically available. This game we needed to win. However, putting up 42 and Josh looking as unstoppable as he looked, I don't care about this loss. I really don't.
I'm looking at the Chiefs' schedule. I lied. So they play the Browns next, which obviously is not... It's not good. I guess, you could see Jameis maybe doing some funny stuff, but, I don't think it's going to go the Browns' way. Then they play the Texans.
Okay.
That's a pretty good game. Then they play the Steelers.
Oh.
On Christmas.
Oh.
So, It'd be a Christmas gift for every single NFL fan out there.
Yes.
If the Steelers won that one. And then they play the Broncos, which have been up and coming.
Yeah.
So you're thinking there's 3 losses right at the end of the season there. If the Bills, possibly win out here, they could easily take this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure we would only have to finish. We'd have to finish with the same record as the Chiefs,
Yes.
right? We have the tiebreaker. We won the head-to-head matchup. So we need them to lose 2 games. We got to win 2 games. So let's do it.
And the Lions obviously we play next, but then I think it's Patriots, Dolphins, Patriots, or Patriots, Jets, Patriots.
It's fluff.
It's bad. Yeah, it's
fluff.
not great. But in terms of first seed, we're definitely still in the race, and that's good to see. But this is one that you really would have wanted, just to make it easier for yourself. And this is one that was easily achievable. Sean McDermott doesn't waste a timeout on offense.
No, on the goal line.
On the goal line.
I think first down, you should just throw some passes. I know the tush push has been treating us well all year.
Or you just get up and run it again quickly.
Yeah, something like that.
You score with 40 seconds left and 3 timeouts. That's still 30 seconds and the ball.
Yeah, exactly. And considering how Josh was playing, I really hadn't seen the downfield accuracy like I did in that game.
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree with that.
All year he has missed a couple throws here and there when he was really chucking it down the field. He was fitting it into tight windows. Obviously, you score 42 points and you lose. That raises a lot of questions about the defense. And I think that's something that
defense
we're going to have to work on.
Coaching and special teams have always been the downfall of this team and might always be the downfall of this team. Poor timeouts, poor special teams, like I mentioned, and then the defense. We let Puka Nacua, rock our world, man. It's like we didn't plan for him at all.
Actually, we did manage to get the Rams to go 3 and out on one possession, and it was because on third down, Puka Nacua was dealing with some kind of cramp or something, and he was on the sideline. Every third down, the Rams converted because it went to Puka Nacua.
Yeah, and Kyren Williams, 29 carries.
And we held him fairly inefficient, to be completely honest.
But
right?
he did have 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Goal line, we're not stopping him, I guess. But Matt Stafford, 2 touchdowns. Puka had 1 touchdown, but just all over the field for him, in the slot, on the edge, in those fit zones, and he just carved us up all game. We were playing a surprising amount of just, I believe, cover 3, just deep coverage defense, and they were just finding those weak spots easily, and that's what happens when you play an experienced quarterback like that. It's just not going to work. If you do that, it's not going to work.
Yeah, Puka, he actually had 2 touchdowns. He had the 1 rushing and then the other to kind of cap off the game. But, absolutely destroyed us. You kind of expect that from Sean McVay, coaching-wise. That's what being out-coached looks like.
Yeah.
Matthew Stafford is not better than Josh Allen. There's probably a fair amount of... the Rams' offense is loaded. I think the Bills are still better, but that's what happens when you're going to get out-coached like that. We're supposed to be a defensive-minded team with Sean McDermott as our head coach, and it's looked like anything but that.
Yeah.
A good mental exercise, though, for the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Think about what you're going to face in the playoffs. You're going to get Andy Reid, Steve Spagnuolo.
Right.
It's just that kind of coaching is something that we have to be able to go up against.
Yeah, and I would argue that this is probably Josh Allen's best game of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks that he had to lose this one. But Shakir played great. Cooper played really well. Probably his best game so far, being a Bill. And defense, just no pressure. They were winning on both sides of the line, offense and defense. Josh was kind of running for his life. But he does it well. He gets out of the pocket, he scrambles, he makes plays happen downfield. But in the first half, that's what really killed us, He was getting out, and then he just ran out of space,
Yeah.
And so that's what's going to kill you. But he is the first player in NFL history with first quarterback. I guess first player.
Yeah,
with three pass touchdowns and 3 rush touchdowns in the same game. And he now has his 6th consecutive season with 3,000 passing yards, which is the first Bills quarterback to achieve that. He's set the Bills' franchise record for most 300-yard passing games, and he's the second Bills player at any position with 60-plus rush touchdowns for the franchise. And he's closing in on Thurman Thomas?
Yes.
His record. So
he just passed O.J. Simpson with this past game. Josh
Hall
Allen,
of Fame running back at this level. Not even mentioning the quarterback part, but yeah, he's breaking all the records. This is this year and next year. I think they're all going to be broken.
Yeah.
He's on a tear. He's probably I don't even want to say probably. He is the best quarterback that the Bills have ever had. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hopefully he takes us to the promised land at some point.
Yeah, we're just praying at that point.
Yeah.
But I want to keep it moving. You have anything else about the Bills here? I think we can go down to like Packers and Lions.
It was a good game. Most watched game in NFL history. Did you know that?
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah, it was because it was a Thursday night game. Packers, Lions. I mean, it was 9-4 versus a 12-1 team. It was a lot closer than I thought it would be. I didn't actually think the Packers would make it as close.
I said the Lions are due for a loss. They did not lose, but the Packers fought in this game really, really, really hard, and that's what you expect. That's what you'd expect. But like you said, I don't know if I foresaw a game-winning field goal being the decider in this game,
right.
Unless it was going to be the Packers winning. But no, the Lions had to take this one.
They did take this one away, and just at the end when you thought, oh, maybe we have a shot, no. They close it out. They make it impossible to stop them. But on the Packers side, Christian Watson having one of the best, probably his best game of the season as well. And he's due for a breakout. He's been looking for that breakout season for a while now. Josh Jacobs kind of realistically inefficient on the ground, but 3 touchdowns. So that makes it worth it.
Yeah.
David Montgomery was a top rusher for the Lions. Also pretty inefficient on the ground, 51 yards and a touchdown. Both quarterbacks kind of normal through the air. I would say neither of them surpassed 300 yards. Goff had the only interception, and their leading receiver, Jamison Williams, where Amon-Ra was nowhere to be. I wouldn't say nowhere to be found, but he wasn't as dominant as before.
Somewhat of a down week, and we saw Tim Patrick get the ball quite a few times. He had 2 touchdowns.
And good for him, man. I'm so happy to see him thriving. When he was a Bronco, I really liked his play, and of course he got hurt over and over and over. Mm-hmm. And now that he's on the Lions, he's finally breaking out, and I'm very, very happy to see it.
Yeah, me too. Nice to see that kind of thing after someone is injury prone, maybe just struggling with injuries. Kind of seeing it with J.K. Dobbins now. Maybe not quite the same level for Tim Patrick, but maybe we eventually can see that, and it might have some fantasy implications at that point. You know?
That's true.
So,
and I don't know what his deal looks like, but he might be a big splash player in the offseason as well because big size, great route runner, great hands. He might be one of those guys, maybe like the Patriots might target, or some team in need of a receiver might target. The only other player that I do want to talk about, Kenny Clark. The stats don't really back it up, but he was very dominant in the rush defense. He plugged all the holes he should have. This was one of his best games this year, and he's a very elite nose tackle. And he really showed it in this game, putting pressure on pressure on pressure, stopping run plugging, just anything you want him to do, he was doing it. He was getting, and the Lions have such a good O-line too, so it was really impressive to see him break out. Is there anything else you want to say about this one?
No, I'm good to move on to another good divisional game, Seahawks-Cardinals.
Yeah.
Zach Charbonnet, is he better than Kenneth Walker? If he gets the whole load of the offense?
Who knows?
He was dominant.
The Seahawks just don't give it to K9 either. Like, Charbonnet had 22 carries. If you go back, I don't think K9 had 22 carries in the last 2 games. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true, but they had reason to feed him. He was a monster.
He is a monster. 134 yards, 2 touchdowns on 22 carries. Those are huge numbers for a guy who was a backup a week ago.
Yeah.
And are the Seahawks real contenders now?
Well, I mean, you just see them stomp on the Cardinals. That was a big game for them.
Yeah.
They needed this win. Now they're sitting at 8-5 in a division that's been
pretty bad,
way worse than anyone would have expected going into this year. But JSN has been, emergent, coming out and being their top receiver so far this year, and wide receiver 6 in fantasy.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely ridiculous.
Especially when you have guys like DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. Very, very surprising.
And then Zach Charbonnet, as I already mentioned in the run game, left a massive impact in the pass game. He caught more passes than any other Seattle receiver. He caught 7.
Yeah.
Next closest was JSN with 5. But this was like a clinic that the Seahawks put on. They put up 30 on a division opponent.
Yeah, and when Kenneth Walker comes back, how do you fit him in this scheme now? How do you fit Zach Charbonnet in this scheme?
Yeah, right, because it's come to the point where he's demanding playing time with a performance like that.
Yeah.
So it has to be some form of, maybe not. I don't. What really was it before? In terms of percentage of use. Maybe it comes more towards a 50-50, or someone ends up being a pass receiver.
Right.
Someone ends up being more of a third down guy. I'm really not sure what you do with that. However, K9 is still arguably the best player on the Seahawks if you want to go down that route. Yeah. So I mean,
JSN's making a case.
Yeah,
but
that's true. Lots of talented, players on this Seahawks team, and you saw it. They put up 30 this week.
Yeah, they dropped 30. But I'm very upset to talk about this next game. The Chargers and the Chiefs. 17-19 Chiefs. You took the Chiefs last week to win. You were right.
Yeah.
I really had faith in the Chargers. They've looked so good for the last couple of weeks. And it's just the same old thing for the Chiefs every single week. I don't know how much you really want to even dwell on this. But just no kicker.
Nope.
You kind of grudge your way down the field, get to the point where you kick, and it hits the upright and goes in. They just find a new way to win every single week. It's got to end at some point. I feel like I say that every week, but it's got to end at some point.
They are using up all of their black magic now. I cannot wait till the playoffs start and their kicker and Butker comes back or whatever, and he goes like 0 for 3 from field goals. I'm just hoping that kind of thing happens.
You're right,
I don't think it happens to the Chiefs. I think they live in some magic fairy tale land where everything just goes right. But
I don't know. And we'll talk about this later for sure, but I just don't think that they're the same dominant Chiefs we saw the last 2 years for sure.
They're not. And you will see that in the power rankings.
Yes.
But we'll get there.
Another team that it felt like the same old every week. The Bengals. They finally won, despite their poor defense. They almost didn't win. The blocked field goal in the very wee seconds in that game. I think a minute and change left. The Cowboys block a punt, and in Cowboys fashion, they don't pick it up. The ball bounces over the first down line, and the Bengals recover.
I don't even know how that happens. You couldn't draw that. No one could have predicted that.
Yeah. It was the most Cowboys way to end a game I think I've ever seen. But the Bengals got it done despite their terrible defense and Simpsons fun night or whatever. But Jamar Chase went off. He went off.
Yes.
I want to say he had like double digit, 14 receptions, 177 yards, 2 touchdowns. We've seen this all year from this guy. He is the best receiver in the league, but he's not on a playoff team.
No, it's unfortunate.
Yeah. And Burrow had a great night. We talked about this earlier. Rico Dowdle, 18 carries, 131 yards. That's what happens when you play the Bengals defense. You put up great numbers. But they almost walked away with a loss. The Bengals, almost walked away with a loss. But they got it done. Somehow, they got it done.
Yeah. And actually, that reminds me, Rico Dowdle's going to be playing the Panthers next week. So, honestly, look for a little bit of more of that. But
he's proved himself.
Regardless, I think I saw something where Jamar Chase is one of the first receivers to have this many 170-plus yard games in a season. he's just been ridiculous. And then you see Chase Brown is next up in terms of receptions on this team and
T.
yards.
Higgins was nowhere to be found.
That says a lot about this Bengals offense. I mean, it also says a lot about the Cowboys defense. I think there was a couple plays where Jamar Chase was forgotten about.
Yes.
Last night.
Trayvon Diggs just unable to cover him too.
I would love to see. I mean, no one can cover this guy.
That's true. That's a good point.
Definitively the best in the league at the moment. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of money he
That's
demands.
a great point. I have no idea who will sign him or how much they will sign him for, but I think that's all we really have to talk about on that one.
Yeah.
Final game we want to talk about here. Jets, Dolphins, 32-26 to the Dolphins. Devon Achane, not efficient on the ground, but great efficiency in the air. He was a great pass catcher. He only had 24 yards on the ground, but a touchdown. And honestly, both quarterbacks played really well in this game. Rodgers had one of, if not his best game all season, and Tua has been playing great since he's come back. But, I mean, the Jets are out, and the Dolphins, they're just on the brink of being eliminated.
They need to keep winning games, and they need to do a lot of that.
Yeah.
I was very surprised / encouraged by how involved not just Tyreek Hill was. He went over the century mark for like one of the first times this season. But Jalen Waddle, this is something that, a year ago, 2 years ago, when both of those guys were hitting over 80 yards, that's when this team was damn near unstoppable.
Yeah.
They are still extremely fast. We even talked about it. This Jets defense, while it's good, a lot of the numbers it has obtained was during Salah's time, and now they're reverting to getting 30 dropped on them, right? But I think this Dolphins offense is certainly clicking.
Yeah.
They need to win every game, though.
Yeah, they're just on the brink if they were to make it, and a lot of teams would need to lose as well because there's a lot of good teams right now. But that's all we have for game recaps. Let's move on to our fantasy starts and sits. You know what? Let's just go backwards today. Yeah. I'm just kind of feeling it. Let's start with the wide receivers.
I'm going to start for wide receivers. I'm going to start Ladd McConkey.
Who doesn't love a good Ladd McConkey?
He's playing the Bucs. I think me and Ryan have been telling you to start people playing the Bucs all year, and it's not going to change with Ladd McConkey either.
Yeah, and if he's hurt, just start any other Charger receiver. Josh Palmer, he's very good.
That is
Quentin
true.
Johnson has had his games.
He does carry a questionable designation. Ladd McConkey does. He was out this past week. Make sure he's playing, but if not, make sure you have Josh Palmer, Quentin Johnson, anyone else maybe that's worth picking up on the Chargers at that point. I wouldn't go too much deeper than that.
I can't think of much more depth that I would pick up in fantasy.
No.
But my start for wide receiver, I'm going to start DJ Moore. He's been doing really well the past couple of games, and he plays the Vikings, who are the second worst team against the pass. Last time he played the Vikings, he had 7 receptions, 106 yards, and a touchdown, and he's been the focal point of this offense. He had 16 targets, which I didn't know, but he had 16 targets against the Lions, who are a very dominant team. So I would look to see him more, and now that the offensive coordinator is the head coach, he's coming in. But for sit wide receiver, I'm rolling with T. Higgins against the Titans, who have the best pass defense in the league. And he was just non-existent against the Cowboys, who haven't had a very good defense all year. So I can't imagine he'll do much against the Titans.
Yeah, I mean, unless maybe they
cover
Jamar Chase very well, and then, and also against the Cowboys, that was just they couldn't guard Jamar Chase.
That's true.
I mean,
That's true.
So kind of weird. What version of T. Higgins are you going to get? You're going to get 4 fantasy points, or you're going to get 28. I mean, it could go either way on any given week. Tennessee, probably a pretty good bet in terms of saying he's going to be fairly limited in production. For me, sitting, I'm going to just take a shot in the dark here, but I'm going to say Devonta Smith.
Yeah.
This offense has been fairly run-heavy. Saquon has been a borderline MVP candidate this point. So, no reason to throw the ball too much against a team that will defend, throwing the ball very well. Pittsburgh has been very good. So I'm thinking maybe he'll be a little less involved, and if there is a wide receiver involved against Pittsburgh, it's going to be A.J. Brown.
Yeah, I was going to say, would you even think to start A.J. Brown?
I mean, A.J. Brown is just one of those guys you have to set it and forget it.
It's tough to say no, right?
But, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go to running back now. I'm going to start Chuba Hubbard against the Cowboys. We mentioned Rico Dowdle against the Panthers, but I'm saying Chuba Hubbard against the boys. They're 30th against rush defense. We know how bad they are. And now that there's no Jonathan Brooks, he's going to get all the carries.
Yeah, exactly. He should have a really good week. I'm playing him in the first round of my fantasy playoffs.
Yikes.
I'm shaking a little bit there, but I'm going to say the exact other side of that. I was thinking maybe start David Montgomery against the Bills defense that hasn't been very good. However, I've seen Jahmyr Gibbs carve out almost a little bit of David Montgomery's role in terms of at least the goal line, especially.
Someone on the Lions is going to carve out this Bills defense, but
yeah, and it's kind of hard to decide who, and obviously you're going to start Jahmyr Gibbs no matter what. But I'm going to go Rico Dowdle against the Panthers. We just saw how committed the Cowboys were to running the ball against bad run defenses. It's going to be the same this week.
Yeah.
And, he had 15 points last week without a touchdown. So, just get into the end zone once and you're over 20 at least, right?
Right. I agree with that.
So, and then I might as well say it's just sit. I'm going to go into that Detroit Lions game. I'm going to say sit James Cook. It's just going to be hard for him to get going. We've seen him limited in pass catching as well.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where he's carved out some of his points when he doesn't run the ball too well. So
and the backups have come in a lot. You see Ty Johnson, you see Ray Davis, and these guys are taking touches away from him, and they're sometimes they outperform him. I'm not gonna lie. So
and it's hard to argue against it either, not from a fantasy perspective, but just from a game observing perspective. They play well when they come in. Ty Johnson is great at blocking those blitzing linebackers on third downs. Ray Davis probably has better hands than James Cook out of the backfield.
Yeah, he does.
So there's usage. There's a reason to use both of them. I think James Cook, with a combination of the matchup and just that running back room being a spinning wheel. They do get him his touches, but it won't be great touches against the Lions.
I agree with that. And finally, our QBs. You want to start QB?
Sure. I'll give you my start and sit. So start Brock Purdy against the Rams. The Rams are trying to turn this around really quick, but they were destroyed last week, 24th against QBs in fantasy. And I think Brock Purdy and this Niners team will still produce. He produced against a good Chicago Bears defense last week.
They
destroyed the Bears. So I'm going to look for more of the same against the Rams defense that's reeling. And then Baker Mayfield, I'm going to tell you to sit him. I think he's thrown a couple too many interceptions these past couple weeks, and he's also fumbled the ball. The Chargers just played really well against the Chiefs in Kansas City. So I hate to say it, he's on my bench this week, but I'm gonna be benching Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I mean I don't mind it. He has looked on the downslide a little bit, but he could come back at any point. That's what scares me. Yeah.
You're always taking a risk by benching Baker Mayfield.
Right.
I am starting Pat Mahomes over him.
Ooh, that's a tough decision. I'm not gonna lie, but let's move into my starts. Have you thought about Justin Herbert to start against the Bucs?
Well,
if he's a free agent, a lot of people have picked him up recently. He's been putting up good numbers.
Yeah, I mean that whole offense has just kind of been clicking.
And I've been risky recently, but I didn't want to be. I want to throw in Will Levis against the Bengals. He's been really bad, but give him a shot. I feel like he'll have a decent game against a really bad Bengals defense. If you really, really need someone, you could try Will Levis.
And at the very least, it's going to be a pass-heavy script, right?
Right. And then for my sit, to wrap it up here, I have Russell Wilson against the Eagles. They are the fourth best defense against the QB, and he doesn't have George Pickens, it looks like. So no wide receiver one against a tough defense. It's going to be a tough game for the Steelers. So sit, Mr. Unlimited. But let's move on to segment 3 here. We're going to do some power rankings. James and I have come up with what we think are our top 10 teams with some honorable mentions because there are a lot of good ones. You want to do the top half? I'll do the latter half.
Yeah, I'll start with 1 through 5. Fairly straightforward here. You might ask where are the Chiefs, and I say I don't care. The Chiefs are not top 5. They're bad.
I agree.
Obviously. So start number 1. Got the Lions. That is without a doubt. I think even if you love the Chiefs, you can't put them over the Lions. The Lions have just been so good. Number 2, the Bills, although we lose.
We're not partial, I swear.
Not partial whatsoever.
I think, and here's what I think. The Bills' loss against the Rams is worse than the Eagles getting away from the Panthers.
Yes, which brings me to number 3, the Eagles, who just barely survived the Panthers on a dropped touchdown, essentially, and saved that $3.4 million better on the Eagles.
Yeah.
And then we're also going to say number 4, Steelers. They've just been so well-rounded, such a good team. They've been somewhat of a powerhouse in terms of scoring, which we definitely didn't expect going into the year, but they've been producing there. And then number 5, the Baltimore Ravens. Kind of explains itself. They're a good team. I don't know if they're quite better than the Steelers, Eagles.
They've had their inconsistencies, but I think they're going to be okay. And at number 6, we have the Kansas City Chiefs. I think all 5 of those teams that James just said could beat the Chiefs right now in a game. And at number 7, the Vikings just barely miss it because I'm not completely sold on them. I know they just smacked the Falcons, but I'm not sold on that team just yet. I know it's been all season.
11-2.
I'm just not sold. I've seen them be very, very fragile despite their record. At 8, we have the Packers keeping it in the same division. They've been pretty good all year. Just barely lost the Lions, which is a very big showing from them. But their team is just too young, just too inexperienced. They're like the OKC of the NFL.
I don't know if I'd say that. OKC is absolutely dominating the NBA right now.
I was saying in terms of like young players.
In terms of young players and promising future, for sure, they are definitely the same. Not quite as good yet, but maybe in a couple of years. Yes.
But at number 9, I have the Broncos, who also have a very young roster that I really think they're going to boom very soon. And at 10, this is a tough choice
There's
here.
a couple teams in the realm here.
The Commanders. I put the Commanders because they have been very dominant on a few games. My honorable mentions here, Seahawks, Texans, Chargers, and Rams all could easily be in that 10 spot, but it's just so hard to put them over the Commanders. And I'm thinking the Commanders could beat the Seahawks. The Commanders could beat the Chargers. The Commanders could probably beat the Texans and the Rams,
Yeah.
at this point.
I'm not going to lie, look for the Rams to keep kind of going up, especially if they keep piling up these really good wins. I think they have another good test in Week 15. But all of these teams could easily have gone in the top 10 as well. We had the Seahawks there originally, maybe, but then we were thinking, we're just kind of biased. The Commanders just had a bye.
Right.
We haven't watched them play
I haven't seen the
Commanders
play in a little bit. It's recency bias a little bit. But, I think Commanders are a solid 10 spot. But that'll wrap up our power rankings, and let's move into our game of the week and our quick picks here. For my game of the week, I have the Bills and the Lions. It's a safe pick. I easily think it could be the game of the season if played right.
Yes, absolutely. It could just be an offensive onslaught. I would look forward to that. Honestly, even if we lost, just like this Rams game, the amount of entertainment I've been getting out of watching Josh Allen has been insane. I've been having a great time. And we still have a good enough record where I'm okay with a loss to a really good team.
Anyway,
Regardless, my game of the week, good division matchup. No, sorry, not division matchup, but rivalry.
Conference matchup.
We got and there. They're a fair rivalry, right? Packers, Seahawks, those goes back to
you almost think they're in the same division. The amount of times they play each other.
Misspoke, but they play each other a lot, especially in the playoffs. They've had some controversial endings to their games. They've had some crazy games in some NFC Championship games, but that's always a movie as well. So
I like that one, yeah.
Look forward to Packers Seahawks.
And let's move into our quick picks. I'm going to say James will not be joining me for the next few episodes. We are here at St. Bonaventure. We're going on to holiday break. James will be home with his family. I'm not going to make him do the podcast. I'll still try to put out as many episodes as I can from home myself, but that does mean our quick pick record does not matter anymore, really.
Yeah.
Which means that I beat you by one game here. One of these games.
We'll see after this week.
That's true. You know what? We'll see after this week. Yeah. But as of now, I'm winning by one game. I'm winning 32-31 on correct games picked.
And you know what? If I'm still losing to you after this week, I'll send my picks in. You know, if I have
to. Just keep going. Just keep going.
I'll send my picks.
I like that. But let's go to Thursday night. Rams 49ers. That should be a good divisional matchup here. I'm taking the Rams. Who you got?
I bet against the 49ers last week. They looked bad going into the game against the Bears. I don't want to bet against them again. It's such a tough matchup with the Rams. This game could easily go either way. I'm going to say the Niners. I don't want to bet against them 2 times in a row.
I hear that. We'll see. You know, that could be the difference maker between you win or I win. But 1 p.m., I think the best game here is the Dolphins and the Texans. 2 kind of under the radar teams. I mean, obviously the Texans are at the top of their division, but the Dolphins have been very good recently. Who you got in this one?
I'm going to go with the Dolphins over the Texans.
Wow.
I think the Texans at home, they have the advantage, but the Dolphins have been playing really well, and as we said, destiny is almost not even in their hands anymore. They need other teams to lose while also winning out.
That's true.
I think this team is hungry. I think they want to prove to Tyreek Hill that they still are going to win games. You know, they need to do a lot of proving in that sense. I'm going to say the Dolphins beat the Texans here.
That's true. I'm going to actually agree with you. I just don't really like the Texans' chances this year. They haven't really been very, how can I say, like, they haven't proved anything to me yet, I want to say. Like, I don't know. They've lost some really bad ones against the Jets, against the Titans. I could easily see them losing to the Dolphins here.
Yeah, me as well.
And 4:25, my game of the week, the Bills and the Lions. As much as I want to say the Bills, I do think the Lions walk away with this one. And I'm looking at the screen here.
I agree.
You're going to agree.
I think I'm going to hedge my bet there.
Right.
Bills win, I'm happy regardless.
Right.
Lions win, at least I picked it right.
Exactly. That's what I did last week with the Falcons, and it worked out fine. 4 p.m., a really good game, right? It's up there with Bills-Lions. I'm going to have it on for sure. Steelers-Eagles. Mm-hmm. I'm going to take the Eagles in this one. I just think they have that slight advantage.
Yeah, no reason why I shouldn't take the Eagles, but, I got to make up some room, so I'm going to be the Steelers, man.
All right.
They've just been well-rounded.
Their defense is so good. I can't lie, but that offense just might struggle without Pickens. That's what I think.
Yeah, but I think if they can just slow this game down, make it an ugly, terrible game, then the Steelers will win it, and I think they're capable of doing that.
And a Sunday night game, Packers-Seahawks. I'm going to take the Packers. Who you got here?
I'm going to take the Seahawks.
You're just trying to make up ground, I think. Yeah, I don't know.
It does reach a point where maybe it's like, well, I don't know. This one I'm more confident in. I'm probably least confident in the Steelers.
Right.
However, Seahawks have been playing really well. They've managed to move past kind of a really ugly mid-season. Yeah. And now they're moving past that. They're playing really well. Charbonnet was awesome. JSN is coming into his own. And I think JSN should be pretty open considering that Metcalf will draw the stronger DB matchup, right?
Yeah. And Lord knows the Packers don't have DB depth, so look for him as well.
Yeah.
I don't know why I picked them. I just think the Packers will walk away with this one. This is obviously your game of the week, so it should be a good one. And to wrap it up here, Monday Night Football, at least the better of the Monday Night Football games. There's 2 Monday Night Football games. It's Atlanta and Vegas, but we're not going to talk about that one. Bears, Vikings. We have the same pick here. We're both riding out with the Vikings. Yeah. Is there any reason? Just you think they're just the better team here?
I think I've picked the Bears a couple of times this season, and they've just let me down. Last week was a big example of that, like in major fashion, let me down, like blown out by 20.
Yeah, and I know I just kind of talked crap about the Vikings, but I'm taking them. They are still a good team. I just don't think that they're at the hierarchy of like a Super Bowl juggernaut right now.
You've seen some meh from them.
Right.
And they still managed to win those games where they play meh. But
and the last time they played, I think it went to overtime, right? So
maybe so.
I'm just saying, it might be a close one. It might be closer than we think. But that will wrap up our quick picks, and that will wrap up episode number 11. We're double digits here, at least this week and last week. Of course, James will not be with me next week, so it'll just be I. But stay tuned to listen to that one. I will see you guys next week. Have a safe college break if you're going on college break. Have a safe and good Christmas, James. I will see you guys later, and I'll see you in January,
January.
for some good episodes here, hopefully. But that will do it. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Peace.